go. Thanks for being here. Welcome to the NCAA March Madness postgame press conference featuring West Virginia. It's my understanding, Coach Bob Huggins, you are going to forego the opening statement and we'll go straight to questions. So with that, as a reminder to those participating, please raise your hand if you do have a question for Coach. Following Coach, we're going to hear from Sean McNeil. So when you're called upon, please state your name and affiliation. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and start with the first question. I believe we have Kevin Kinder with Blue and Gold News. Kevin, if you would, please unmute and ask your question.
It's kind of a different alignment and lineups that you had to put out there today. Did that, contribute to some of the turnover, some of the passing issues that you had?
No, I don't think so. They did a good job getting in the passing lanes. I don't think the lineups had anything to do with it. Actually, we downsized, so it should have been better.
With that, I'm going to turn to Justin Jackson. Justin, if you would please unmute and ask your question.
Coach, obviously on both sides, this became a sort of a three-point shooting contest. Just trying to defend against that style of play, that flow of the game. Can you just talk about the back and forth of it, the difficulties of trying to defend the style of play like that?
Well, I thought we kind of did a pretty good job getting back in the game, and then I think we took a 2-point lead, and then we kept switching when we shouldn't have switched. We needed to keep the same guy, the same defender on their best player, and we kept switching and kept saying stop switching, and we still kept switching, which is I think we switched it a little bit. Took a look at switching a little bit in practice yesterday, but we shouldn't have switched it.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to Grant Flood. Grant, if you could please unmute and ask your question. Grant? All right. Next, we will go ahead and go to Cody Nesport. Cody?
Coach, you've talked about it all season, but just what Gabe does, on both sides of the floor. I mean, is it hard for us, not knowing the game plan and not knowing the ins and outs, to really appreciate everything that he does?
Well, I think it's hard for most people to appreciate everything he does. He keeps balls alive for us. He stops penetration. We've had a hard time all year, as I'm sure you're aware of, staying in front of our man. And Gabe really does a great job of stopping penetration. So he's the key to our defense. He's the last resort. He does a lot of things. We're not near as good a basketball team without him.
Grant Flood, I'm going to try one more time. If you would like to ask your question, please unmute. If anyone else has questions, please make sure to raise your hand. Thank you. Grant?
Yes, thank you. Hey, Coach, I'm Grant Flood from Insider Institute. It was a nail-biting second half. However, your team only had one block shot throughout the game. Do you think this was the key factor towards the loss?
No, I don't know. We're not going to block jump shots from 15 feet and out. So they shot the ball really well. Buddy shot the ball extremely well. He had a stretch where I think he made 3 consecutive threes that really when we were ahead and we tried to catch up from then on. They didn't really. They stopped taking it to the basket. The shot blocking didn't have anything to do with it today. it has before, but not today.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go to Mike Kazaza. Mike, please unmute and ask your question.
Hey, Bob. Derek recovered within the second half of that last game after his anxious start. Did you see similar things today, or was there another explanation for maybe what held him back, or maybe what Syracuse did to him to hold himself back?
We were struggling to guard him, and Gabe is our best inside defender. And Derek was they were double teaming Derek, and we just didn't our timing of getting the ball inside to him wasn't very good, and so Gabe does a much better job defensively, and Gabe rebounds it pretty much as well as Derek has. So if you go by minutes played, anyway. Trying to win, man. Just trying to win.
Next, we're going to go to Gregory Carey. Gregory, if you could please unmute and ask your question.
Bob, what do you most attribute the slow start today to? Was it kind of adjusting to that zone? And, why do you think the first 10 or 12 minutes of the game went as poorly as they did?
I think we ran what we needed to run. We just didn't score it. I mean, how many shots inside of 3-4 feet did we miss to start the game? And they had a lot to do with that. But I mean, you catch it and going at the basket from 3 or 4 feet, we ought to make one. We didn't make any. And then they shot it extremely well. They shot it. Seemed like everything they shot up went in, and they shot it from deep, and we just we wanted to make them bounce it, and we didn't. We let them get too many step-in shots.
All right, we're going to go to Ethan Bach. Ethan, please unmute and ask your question.
Hey, Coach. With all the adversity you guys have dealt with this year with COVID and then departures, what will you remember the most about this group of guys?
Well, they're good people. It's what I just told them in the locker room. They're as good a people as I've had the privilege of being around in all of my years of coaching. They're really good guys. They're good guys. They care about each other. They really are a team. I think I'll remember just how good a people that they were and will continue to be, I'm sure.
All right, we're going to go back to Justin Jackson for another question. Justin, please unmute.
Coach, Syracuse center Dolce, I think he played like maybe the last 12 minutes with the 4 fouls. Strange though that I guess maybe with Gabe, kind of trade defense for offense there, but I mean the fact that he couldn't get challenged for that 5th foul, frustrating at all, or?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, we couldn't score it in there. They did a great job of gang guarding us when we threw it into whichever guy we threw it into, be it Gabe or be it Derek. They gang guarded them, and we didn't do a very good job of playing inside out with it. We made bad decisions with the ball. With that part of it, and so that wasn't really our issue, I don't think, Justin. I think our issue was we stopped guarding for a short period of time. They made 3 threes, I believe it was, and so all of a sudden it goes from a tie game to them up 9.
All right, next we're going to go back to Cody Nespor. Cody, please unmute and ask your question. Following that, we'll have one more question.
Coach, for as long as you've known Coach Boeheim, I mean, does it surprise you at all that he's able to take a team that was a bubble team and make a run to the Sweet 16?
No. No, and he's got good players. He's got good players. He had good players. It's just it took some time I think for them to gel together. I think it took some time to understand what he was asking them to do. You don't just roll out of bed and play 2-3 zone the way they do. They're the best. He's the best that's ever coached the 2-3 zone, and they're the best to ever play it. Syracuse is the best to ever play the 2-3 zone. So I mean, it's everybody wants it to happen like right now. It doesn't work like that, and he did a terrific job.
Last question for you, Coach, is coming again from Kevin Kinder. Kevin.
Coach, you've mentioned in the past about taking so much energy to rally, dig yourself out of holes. Is that a factor again today with the defensive lapse you mentioned and down the stretch?
No, I don't think so, Kevin. I that's not the way I saw it. We switched and we shouldn't have switched. I mean, plain and simple. We wanted size on Buddy, and we switched size off of him, and he shot it over top of us and made 3 threes. And I think it went from a tie score to us being down 9. And he couldn't do that when we had length on him. We bothered him when we had length on him. And I don't know. I don't understand. I don't know why they switched, but they kept switching. We switched 3 times when we shouldn't have switched.
All right. Thanks, Coach Huggins, for your time today. We're going to be joined momentarily by Sean McNeil. If those of you on the call would like to lower your hands, and then if you have questions for our player, please raise your hand again, and we'll start momentarily. Thanks much. All right, we are now joined by Sean McNeil, and we're going to begin the question and answer session with Sean. I'm going to start today with Cody Nespor. Cody, if you could please unmute and ask your question.
Hey, Sean, just what was it like playing against the zone with only 1 day of prep?
It was tough. These quick turnaround games like this are difficult to figure out and kind of adjust to, but that's the name of the game this time of year. Just figuring things out on the fly. Syracuse's zone, I think, bothered us a little more than we probably expected. We kind of struggled in the first half, didn't really get a lot of good looks, turning the ball over, things like that, and it ended up hurting us.
All right, our next question comes from Mike Kazaza. Mike, please unmute and ask your question.
Hey, Sean, the team's scoring and resilience this year when down has kind of been a hallmark. I'm just curious if that's maybe like the most disappointing thing here is that you can't extend that a little bit longer when that does seem to be a strength, and it nearly got you back and over the hump today.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, especially with we struggled there at the end of the year, lost 2 in a row. Kind of figured things out in the second half against Moorhead, and then kind of come out flat today. Not much energy. We look kind of confused out there, I thought. So yeah, it's definitely tough to go out like we did.
Next question is coming from Justin Jackson. Justin?
Hey, Sean, Coach was talking about the defensive switch in there. Once you guys had the lead and then, Taz hit the 3, and so it's tied. I think there's like 7 minutes left, and then Coach was talking about yelling to you guys not to switch off of Buddy, and it seemed like you guys were. Can you just kind of talk about that? communication and the heat of the moment like that?
Yeah, it's just what it comes down to, communication. We went to our point drop, kind of a matchup look, where we do kind of try to pass things off and switch here and there. So I think that it was just a lapse in, communication and knowing what was going on.
As a reminder, if you have a question, please use the raise hand function to indicate that. We're going to turn now to Kevin Kinder. Kevin.
Sean, you mentioned the turnovers in the first half. A lot of them appeared to be unforced. Were those caused by like defenders at different angles or just different ways you were running the offense, running the hollow, things like that? What contributed there?
Yeah, I think that, like I said earlier, I think that their zone kind of shocked us a little bit. They got a ton of length, nothing that we could. I mean, there's just things that you can't really simulate, and their length bothered us. I thought we were trying to force things too quick, not letting things really develop, trying to force stuff, I thought, and ended up turning the ball over and stuff. But figured it out in the second half a little bit, made a run, took the lead there for, I don't know what it was, a minute or two. But it's tough.
Our next question comes from Ryan Fritz. Ryan, if you could please unmute and ask your question.
Hey, Sean, you guys battled back, from 14 down 3 different times in the first half. You take the lead on your 3 there with about 9 minutes to go, and then they go on that run after that. How hard is it to regather after using all that energy to get back in it the first time to try to take another run at it before the game was over?
Extremely. I thought that when we would, get over the hump there and took the lead, that we wouldn't look back. But they're a good team. Credit to them. They've got guys that can shoot and score the ball. Buddy obviously knows how to fill it up. So it's heartbreaking. When we fight, we were down whatever it was, 14 or 16. Cut it to 4 or 2 there for a while, and then finally get over the hump, and then they took it back. And I don't know if they ever looked back after they got the lead there, after I hit that 3. But yeah, it's extremely it's upsetting.
Our next question will be from Ethan Bach. Ethan, if you could please unmute and ask your question. Thank you.
Hey, Sean. So you've had a great improvement from last. Hey, Sean. You've had an improvement from last season to this season. Just as a reflection, what does Huggins mean to you? What does Hugs mean to you?
He's given me an opportunity that I'll never know how to repay him for. Yeah, he's a tough guy to play for. He gets on you more than anybody. More on me than anybody I've ever, had in my life. But I know that there's a good purpose behind it. It sucks because more than anybody, I think that we all just wanted to go win it for him. He just goes past 900. I don't know. I'm forever thankful.
Our next question goes back to Cody Nussberg. Cody, please unmute and ask your question.
Sean, yesterday, Coach Huggins said he didn't want you guys to try and shoot over the zone, but it seemed like that's what worked mostly in the second half with you and Deuce and Taz. Did you guys make an adjustment at halftime to focus more on shooting?
No, we didn't really make an adjustment to shoot more. Honestly, we went, into the locker room and tried to figure out ways to get the ball inside easier than what we were getting it in there before. But shots just started falling. So obviously, when you see a couple go in, you keep shooting. That's just what shooters do and people that score the ball. But their length just bothered us so much inside, I thought. But credit to them. I wish them the best.
All right, Sean, the last question today is going to come from Justin Jackson. Justin?
Hey, Sean, obviously kind of, moving forward, this whole season, obviously with COVID and everything was weird. You would have to think at some point you guys get back to some sort of normal. So kind of moving forward, how do you want to improve your game moving into next year? And then, what do you think, this memory of this tournament will help you guys, to get ready for next year? And how much different can next year be, I guess?
Yeah, we didn't have a whole lot of experience. I don't know if I think Gabe was the only person that has experienced, this tournament. So, we didn't go as far as we wanted to. We didn't accomplish things that we, had set out to do. But I think this tournament, plays into a big role of experienced guys and that have been here and know what to expect and stuff. So as we go forward, obviously I think this will be good for us. You try to, after a loss, it's tough, but you just got to try to figure out positives and things you can take away. So that's what we're going to go do. Go back tomorrow, have a team meeting, and figure some things out here what we're going to do in the off season.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Sean. Appreciate your time. That's it for this post-game news conference. A transcript of the coach's interview will be provided by ASAP Sports at ncaa.com/transcripts. You'll also find a recording of this press conference in the NCAA Digital Media Hub at ncaa.veritone.com. Thanks for joining us and have a great evening.